first of all, we are very close to the Austrian-Slovenian-Hungarian border, so southwest Hungary. And this is where we develop our project. And this whole DEDES program is based on my family's property. So we manage 250 hectares in Zola County. And what's interesting is our land is not united, so it's around 4 villages. So we are very forced to be creative and transport our animals and find solutions. Currently we graze around like 100 hectares in overall, and we have 100 grass-fed red Anguses, and currently 15 horses, which is a very rare breed of Alteca. We have a living lab concept on our program, so this means we change a lot every year. So we find new ideas, new methods, we test them, we fail, sometimes we succeed, but we learn from these and we go ahead. So otherwise we also have many partnerships with national parks, with some governmental institutes and some research programs. And here you can see some of our related learning experiences. So we have some permaculture background, we have learned holistic management, and currently we apply non-selective grazing, so based on total grazing program by real belt ranching, and the Agrarian's landscape design program we also involved. And there are some awards that we got in Hungary for our work. So I'd like to introduce like two of our main properties. The first one above is this was actually the first grazing property for us, which is a wetland. As you can see, it's the whole landscape is very homogeneous. So it is optimized for subsidies, and unfortunately we cut most of the trees and bushes, so it's mostly like grassland. And you can see the change for the second property, which we started to develop in 2018, that how much diversity we have as a habitat. So here we try to focus that we have forestry, we have agroforestry system, we have grasslands, and we have also dams and wetlands. So we have diversity in habitat, and this means we have diversity in diet for our animals. We have talked a lot about the animals, like their stomach and how they consume all the grasses. So we try to have like a diversity, a very diverse diet for them. And it's because I cannot tell like what my cows need, because I have a pregnant cow, I have a sick cow, I have a breeding bull, I have a young cow, I have an old cow, and all of these have different requirements. So my best guess is to have a very diverse vegetation, so it includes like trees and bushes, and I have to give like a chance for my animals that they can combine the best selection for themselves to heal themselves. So our motivation in the DEDES program is one of the first motivations with some climate resilience on our farm. The next one is like conservation. So we, from the beginning, we really try to focus on protecting some of the species that we have, some of the values. We wanted to achieve like high adaptability, so flexibility on our land. And the last one is getting more and more interesting lately, is the terroir, which in our case, I wouldn't focus on like the soil or earth, it's also very important, but more the relation between the product and the land, the place where it originated. So we want our animals to be a reflection of the bioavailability of the resources, the vegetation, the nutrition that we have. So our system is very low on inputs. In other words, I can say we are very radical in regenerative agriculture, because we really try to minimize all the inputs that we have. So we don't use chemicals on our animals, we don't reseed our pastures, and we try to minimize supplementary feed. So as I said, our animals are grass-fed, and they just get some minerals. But in return, we have to focus and improve on some other areas, which one of them is like improving our grazing management. So we well, try to learn some of the Australian and American ways to how to develop our grazing program. The other one is to improve the landscape function. So how we can plan our property and how we can replan our infrastructure design to support this management-intensive grazing system. And the last one, which is very important, is breeding. So we need the right animals in the landscape because the higher pressure we have on our animals with high density grazing and non-selective grazing, the quicker the differences will appear within the herd. So I need to select purposely based on performance for my animals. So we want a very diverse like a paddock in the growing season, but we don't want to stop our grazing in the non-growing season. So we would like to actually change on that method that we transport hay for the winter to the animals and we store the hay. And we'd like to more rely on actually winter grazing and bear grazing or maybe bear grazing when we don't, so we'll talk about later. But basically we transport the animals to the paddocks where we still have vegetation. And it's very important because bioflora changes with the vegetation over the seasons. So it keeps them more healthy and they don't have drastic changes in diet over the year. So for instance, when you give them just hay in a sacrificial paddock or in a building, and then in the spring the growing season starts and you start grazing, and it's just a radical change in their diet. So we try to skip this by keeping them outside. We don't have buildings, all our animals are outside. And as you can see, they can graze on stockpile areas where they still have some green vegetation, some pussies and grasses, and they still have the standing hay, the stockpile section. And regarding the shade or shelter, we use the forested areas. So instead of buildings, they can use the trees. So we really need the best quality equipment to do this because we rely on portability and adaptability. So basically our perimeter fences are fixed, and all inside the paddocks are used, or we use portable fencing. To make it efficient, we usually use these deer grills with 200 meters poly wire. So we don't want longer because then we need more posts. So usually we use 10 posts for one line. So one line we fence in front of the animals, and with one line we fence behind them. But it has to be efficient, and even like all family members have to do this. Like it shouldn't be heavy. You can't carry like 20 or 30 of these posts. Maximum like 10 for one line, I would say. Or we do corridors. It can be longer at 400 meters, but that we don't do on a daily basis. So high management, and yeah, we do a routine. So routine for the farmer. So we do daily moves with the animals, and that's a very good fast learning curve for us and also for the animals. And the better routine we have, the easier on the land to actually move our animals and lead them to new paddocks, which could be like further away. So what we do is usually we go down in paddock size and we try to have some pressure animals and have non-selective grazing. So as you see, in front we have an already grazed area, and behind we have the autumn paddock. And what overgrazing for us, because usually in the national parks, overgrazing is how low the animals graze, and for us is not let the animals to stay in one paddock long enough to regraze the new leaves. So it's a very big difference, especially for horses. They graze very low, and it's absolutely fine. They just need to be on the move all the time. So what's the advantage of this? We use just a very small portion of our land at a time, so all the other parts could be rested or stockpiled. Here you can see the winter grazing, and here we have bear grazing or bear unrolling. Unfortunately, we cannot predict like how much wildlife pressure we are going to have on our stockpiled areas, and therefore we have to have some hays or bears that we usually prepare in the summer when everything is very dry. And as you can see, we rotate even in the winter the paddocks, so they are on the move usually in 3 days, 4 days maximum. So the rest is on the left, they have no access to that paddock. They're currently in that small paddock, and all the other paddocks are fenced off. We prepare the hay bales, and they have water access up there, so we still need to use corridor from the orange lines to the blue one, or we have more water points for the future. But what I want to say that we fence off the water sources as well, so they just can step in, they can drink, but they cannot have a bath in the dam. So we try to keep the water quality high. So either we have more dams in the future, so we can rotate the water points, or we have a pipeline that we don't have actually, but it's a plug-and-play system, so very efficient. With a hose, you basically can have a small metal tank. They can drink for even in winter, and you have high flexibility. Or the other solution is that you manage it in the paddock, and you have some portable stock tank that you move with the animals in each paddock. And you can see we have no sacrificial paddock. Animals are clean. And they are absolutely fine in the forested areas. They are kept very naturally. They don't need buildings. Biodiversity question. We use different methods for this. One is if we find protected species in our land, then we check the most important time period of the year when we shouldn't disturb it, and fence it off, and we try a very special rest period for it. And in the left corner, you just like slip down a bit, but it's a holistic management plant raising table. We try to adjust it and make records like what time we rest, what time we graze in the land. So basically, we have some planning with these paddocks. Or we skip paddocks. So one day the paddock, we skip it, it gets a longer rest period. It's large enough for wildlife, so for deers, rabbits, birds, for nesting. It's a very good solution to have some diversity. And you can also do this in a mosaic pattern. So we really enjoy the results of the mosaic pattern that we should rotate every year. So we shouldn't have each year every year at the same paddock, the stockpiled or long grass system, because then nature will adjust. So we rotate also the stockpiled areas. And sometimes probably we need to have selective grazing, because not all species prefer high animal pressure. At these areas we usually use selective grazing. And of course we don't use chemicals. We collect a lot of data on our property, so it could be like contour maps, based on like LiDAR maps. It's very important to know our landscape, which are the wet areas, which are the dry areas, and also from the past, like we talk with locals, like what did they know from the previous owners, or like how our land was managed in the past, and we try to introduce international best practices on our lands, like how our land reacts to this management. Just like a quick example, so here at the wetland we have these stripes for one day in paddock, and just imagine it on the left, like on that landscape, which is a hilly landscape, and you see that red area is very steep. So on that map, on the right lower corner, we have a dam. So it's a big problem if you, for instance, graze up there on the hills, and then your animals have to cross that red area to get access to water. So probably we should solve their water problem on the level, so up on the hill. So the red area could be fenced off. It could have a lower priority, and we either have like less grazing there, or we don't graze it at all. Yeah, and we actively improve our water systems. So we develop dam systems where we collect water. These are rainwater. We have very good clay in this area. So just structuring the soil is enough to hold water for our animals, and it's also a microhabitat. And if just positioning this dam is not enough, then we can use different techniques to collect water. From our permaculture era, we had some swales, which was very misleading because it's not efficient when you have livestock. It holds the water, it's very good as a microhabitat, but it needs maintenance, especially when you have animals. And it's usually not that efficient to collect water in the pond. Instead, we use this Australian design to collect water with roads. So they don't hold the water, they lead the water in the dam, and even in extreme rainy conditions, it's very efficient to keep water in the dam systems. And when we don't have dams, then we use all these portable drinking points to follow the herd and let them drink within the paddocks. Yes, and some final words on the performance. So we want our animals like high grass conservation efficiency. So we want them to keep good body condition so in a small paddock when they're competing for the grass, and probably they don't have the grass, best grasses. So we don't let them to graze non-selectively. They have high pressure, they have parasite pressure that they need to adapt to it, and they have to adapt to their environment. So we don't want grain-fed animals on our land just to lose body condition. They are extremely large and not efficient. We want usually smaller animals that are early maturing and hormonally balanced. And to continue this, we have two partnerships with the Australian agrarians, and where they focus on farm planning. So anyone who is interested in how to make paddocks, and we use the agrarians workplace for this. And you can find YouTube videos on their website, so they have very good recommendations for this. And for the grazing aspect, currently we prefer the total grazing program, and we organize their events in Hungary. And you can see that we usually do tools and on-site learning. And if you have questions, then I'm happy to answer them.
Thank you very much, Andrasz. Máte niekto nejaké špecifické otázky? Alebo si ich necháte na obednú pauzu? Jedna otázka, Zuzi.
No, I would just like to ask you, what about the hay when it's outside and you're grazing, air grazing? What about the rainfall and moisture?
Yeah, you can be strategic. This is a bad example because the hay was actually placed in the summer at one of the deepest points of the valley, so where the moisture actually is collected. So we had more waste from the hay, but this year we moved it a bit up to the side of the hill, so it's drier and the water doesn't stay there that long. So we are expecting less waste this year. And well, usually about bales, and then what to say, like bale grazing or bale unrolling. We used to have bale grazing where we just left the hay bales there, and the animals consumed like that, so they had access to these bales. But now we are unrolling them in the morning and in the afternoon, and we can save a lot of hay like this. So it's more efficient. It's like something that you can save a lot of because if you do bale grazing, then dominance matters. The strongest cows have access to the bale, and when they are done, then actually the weaker ones have access to the bale. If you do bale unrolling, And actually, dominance doesn't matter because it's just along the line and all the animals have access at the moment, at the time.
Maybe in this point, I would sincerely like to thank you for your presentation and ask the rest of the questions that you have. Maybe use the lunch break to catch Andrasz. Thank you very much.